going on, vinyl community? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a vinyl haul showcasing all of the records that I acquired within the month of April this year in 2025. Not gonna lie, I did not think that April was going to be as solid of a month as it was when it came to vinyl finds, and there is quite a lot to get through in this video. We have the two latest hard rocking and essential titles from Rhino's High Fidelity series. We got the rest of my want list from Record Store Day. We have an interesting Kiss 7-inch picture disc. We have some finds from a record store that I acquired for 50% off. We have the new Ghost album and so much more. It's about to go deep, so without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the latest finds.
Okay, we're going to be kicking this haul off with some fantastic audiophile reissues from Rhino Records. These were released as part of their High Fidelity series, which so far has been absolutely fantastic. All the pressings sound great. All analog mastering by Kevin Gray. Press it optimal. Glossy tip-on jackets. Custom inserts. It's been fantastic, and to be honest with you, as they keep releasing titles, I find myself upgrading a lot of stuff that I had previously in my collection, and also delving into some other interesting territory that I never really, owned previously. But when they announced these two albums as being part of the series, you know how they say smash the subscribe button? I smashed the pre-order button because I jumped for joy. Because when you think of audiophiles, you think of the jazz guys. You think of the classical guys. But for me, I like to turn it up to 11 and rock out. So it's great that Rhino is embracing the rock realm. And in this case, they were embracing the year of 1971 with Alice Cooper, Love It to Death, and Black Sabbath, Paranoid. This right here, first album with Bob Ezrin in the producer's chair, completely reinvented this band. I'm 18 is on here, Is It My Body, Black Juju, Ballad of Dwight Fry, Caught in a Dream. This album is just great Detroit hard rock with some of that theatrical element intact that the Alice Cooper group brought to life on the stage. And of course, as you can see, original cover, you see Alice kind of gesturing his thumb like an appendage, basically. And this is also numbered as well. This is copy number 680. Nice low number out of 5,000. Gatefold jacket with the spider eyes. And then we have the insert here, which has scans of the RCA Chicago tape boxes, along with an interview with Bob Ezrin, talking about how he started working with Alice Cooper. Fantastic stuff. And then we get to this golden goose here, Black Sabbath Paranoid, which sold out in under 24 hours. Now, I had previously owned the 2006 Rhino pressing, which was cut by Kevin Gray, which I ended up parting ways with, and then I kind of rebought it because they repressed that pressing for Vinyl Me Please. Back in 2015, I got it not too long ago, actually. And then when I saw that they were doing this, got rid of Vinyl Me Please, and I got this. And one of the criticisms, I say criticisms lightly, of the original Kevin Gray cut was that there was some volume fluttering in the beginning of War Pigs, which actually appears on original US pressings. And on this, I don't know what Kevin did, but the EQ was tweaked to where you could hardly notice it. And it just sounds absolutely phenomenal. I don't really need to say much about the impact of this record. It's one of Sabbath's greatest. It's more or less a greatest hits because you have War Pigs, the title track, Iron Man, Fairies Wear Boots, and then of course you get great tracks on here like Planet Caravan, Electric Funeral. It's all great stuff. Gatefold right there. And then we have scans of the Trident tape boxes. And then we have an interview with Tom Allom, who was one of the engineers, as well as some quotations from the band members. So overall, fantastic. Both of these pressings sound freaking phenomenal. So I know that Sabbath Paranoid is sold out, but knowing Rhino, they'll probably do an unnumbered version. For those that are curious, where's the number? There it is. I have copy 3,602 out of 5,000. And this was just right after, about a year ago, they did the first Sabbath record. So maybe Master Reality's next, even though Vinyl Me Please did an all-analog cut recently. We'll find out. But nonetheless, as a hard rock heavy metal fan, I am very, very happy with these pressings. So stoked to see them get the audiophile treatments. And then shifting into some recent territory. Recently, I've been on a big of Montreal kick. You may have seen my last haul video where I showed off the 20th anniversary audiophile pressing of the Sunlandic Twins album. I was looking on Discogs because there's a lot of Montreal vinyl that I don't have in my collection in terms of like singles, compilations, EPs. As in terms of the studio catalog, it's as complete as it will be. But I saw this compilation up for like $15, and I was like, I might have to look into that. And it is this collection here. This is called the Gladiator Nightstick Collection. So this came out back around 2004. This was a vinyl-only compilation that covers their first album, Cherry Peel, all the way up until Satanic Panic in the Attic, which to me, that period is kind of my go-to era for Of Montreal. It's very kind of 60s, Baroque pop sounding, and then Satanic Panic that kind of went a little bit more electro, but it still sounds fantastic. And basically, it brings together tracks from all of the main studio albums, along from some of the EPs and other compilations. There's an unreleased track on here as well. This is a really fun listen. I don't know if I would necessarily call it definitive in terms of like the ultimate overview of early Of Montreal, but it is a very fun listen indeed. It comes with a nice printed inner sleeve, pressed on black vinyl, and hey, for $15, I am very, very happy with this. So I was really glad to get this little Of Montreal primer for the collection. And then here is a new release that has come out fairly recently. I was aware of this coming out, and it's funny, like I like the idea of this particular album. It got released, I want to say, around early 2000s, I want to say, when the shows took place. And I always just thought it was a great sort of combination of two great rock entities. But then I saw that they were reissuing it, and I saw what the indie exclusive vinyl looked like, and I was like, you know what? Let's buy it on a whim. Why not? And I am talking about Jimmy Page and the Black Crowes live at the Greek. Now, what is special about this reissue right here? There is a box set coming that has all of the recordings and tracks, but this is a sort of highlights release that doesn't have just the Zeppelin tracks, but it also has some Black Crowes tracks as well. So, of course, in terms of the Zeppelin stuff, you have Custard Pie, Sick Again, Wonton Song, Hot Song for Nowhere. I mean, it's a really solid selection that kind of digs a little deep into the Zeppelin catalog. And then as for the Black Crowes stuff, you have No Speak, No Slave, Remedy, She Talks to Angels. Really fantastic stuff. And this is a stunning looking pressing. Great live shot of the Crowes with Page. 2 LPs. Nice printed inner sleeves. And the indie exclusive vinyl comes pressed on this sort of like metallic silver purplish colored vinyl. It looks really, really awesome. So I was really glad to kind of buy this on an impulse, because the thing is, look, I love Zeppelin and I dig the Black Crowes, and you put the two together, it makes for a good combo. So I was really glad to pick this one up. Okay, so Record Store Day came and went this year, and I hope all of you guys found what you were looking for this year. Obviously, Rhino had sent me a box of titles that I was after that I showcased the day before Record Store Day, but I still made it out to my other mom and pop record stores close to me and managed to cop pretty much everything else that was on my want list. Yeah, there were some interesting things here and there, but I tried to keep it as immediate as possible. I say immediate, and yet I basically ended up buying just as much as I got from Rhino. So happens every year. I look at the record store list, and sure enough, there's like 10 to 12 titles that I'm going nuts over. So first off, here's one of the ones that I was really excited about, and that is Queen, the D. Lane Lee demos. So this was Queen's first demo that they did around late 71, early 72. These demos have been made available previously. Actually, Brian May's acetate copy was the reference for the 40th anniversary bonus EP of the debut album. And then obviously with the Queen 1 box set that they just did recently, they actually went in and remixed the Dylan Lee demos, and that is what this is. And honestly, I love the remix of the demos. It's basically what the Queen 1 remix should have sounded like. I know I've mentioned in my tracking angle review how there were pitch-corrected vocals and sampled drums, and it's just, I didn't quite dig it. But this remix, though, of the demos sounds absolutely awesome. And also, if you are a diehard Queen aficionado, you will know that the track The Night Comes Down, as it appears on the album, actually comes from the demo. So, a little fun fact there. They actually used some photos taken from that demo session for the artwork. Nice bit of gold inlay there for the Queen logo. And it's pressed on black vinyl with a cool custom center label there. And if you see this out, I wholeheartedly recommend checking out the demos. These sound absolutely phenomenal. Very happy to get my hands on these. Next up is my third copy of this particular album. Granted, it's dubbed the alternate versions, but now it's 3 copies. And that is Thin Lizzy's Jailbreak, the alternative versions. So basically, there was a big box set that came out recently called 1976, centered around Jailbreak and Johnny the Fox. They put out the stereo remixes of those albums recently on vinyl, and now they're kind of diving deeper into the set and giving us an alternative version of Jailbreak. Alternative in the sense of we have a demo version of the title track, demo version of the track Running Back, instrumental version of Warriors. The Kid is Back, take 1, which is basically an early rendering of The Boys Are Back in Town, an alternate version of Emerald, acoustic Fight or Fall. Just really good stuff. So if you love Thin Lizzy and you love Jailbreak, you definitely owe it to yourself to check this out. Kind of rips on the original artwork a little bit with some slight modifications. Printed inner sleeve here, we have a sketch of the original Jim Fitzpatrick sort of sketch from the original cover. And then we have some print ads and such. And this is also pressed on black vinyl. And they went ahead and used that, that sort of spacey Vertigo label there, just like the original. So very happy to get my hands on this. And even though there was not a Pink Floyd title for this year, us Pink Floyd fans were graced with releases from Nick Mason, David Gilmour, and Roger Waters. So I'm going to start off with perhaps my favorite one, even though it's definitely the most minimalist, I would say, in terms of audio content. And that is Nick Mason's Saucerful of Secrets Echoes Live. This is a single-sided 12-inch single featuring perhaps the key track of the sort of pre-Dark Side Floyd period. This was recorded live in Frankfurt on August the 1st, 2024. Now, I'm not quite sure if this kind of foreshadows a potential upcoming live release from Saucerful of Secrets, because they did a 12-inch single several record store days ago from the Roundhouse London gig, and then that came out as a full-fledged Blu-ray, CD, vinyl release, etc. So I don't know if maybe there's another release coming pretty soon, but fingers crossed if that's the case. If not, I'm happy with this because Echoes is just one of those great Pink Floyd songs that I never get tired of. And what's really unique about this, if you want to talk about gimmicky kind of stuff, is that, like I said, it's a single-sided 12-inch, and it plays inside out. So you put the needle right towards the end where the center label is, and it plays backwards, which is quite a nifty thing. Kind of reminds me of how you drop the needle on side 1 of Jack White's Lazaretto album and it plays backwards. It's so cool. And because it's single-sided, there is a nice etching of the Japanese waves kind of graphic that Nick Mason had used on his drum kit back in the day. So I thought it was quite fitting that they put that there. So really cool release from Nick and his Saucerful of Secrets. Next up, we have David Gilmour with Romani Gilmour, Between 2 Points. This is a track off of his latest studio album, Luck and Strange. We basically have 4 different versions of the same track. We have Vita Brevis and Between 2 Points live from the Royal Albert Hall. Then we have the Gentry remix. Then there's the Gentry remix edit. And then just for your main point of reference, you have the album version. So 4 different versions of the same track, all in one umbrella. We also have a printed inner sleeve here with lyrics as well as credits. And it does come pressed on clear vinyl. Just because I'm a Floyd diehard, it's kind of necessary to pick these things up. And last but not least, we have Roger Waters' Dark Side of the Moon Redux Live. So this is basically his live rendering of his sort of reinvention of Dark Side of the Moon. I've said it before, it's interesting to listen to, but it doesn't really perfect the original. You know, Roger just kind of does his sort of Leonard Cohen style vocal and arrangement, you know, type stuff with this reinvention. But it's entertaining though. You know, like I said, it's interesting. Now, this also is available in a box set that just came out for Dark Side of the Moon Redux, which I thought was really stupidly expensive. So if you want to bypass getting that box set if you already own the album, you can seek out this live release and you got your bases covered. But overall, it is a cool looking package. You basically have a triangular lighting fixture there. There's a shot of Roger on the back, some live shots. And as you can tell, he's really sporting that pink blazer. And I suppose that reflects in the color of the vinyl because it is pressed on pink vinyl, which looks pretty cool. So even though, like I said, Pink Floyd lacked a release, it's been a couple of years since they actually put out a Record Store Day title. We at least have some solo works to sink our teeth into. So this is actually a title that Rhino had put out, but I think they did not have any promo copies to supply, so I was really happy to get this at my local shop. One of the bands that I always go after every year for Record Store Day, whether it's the regular day or Black Friday, and this is one, if you watched the Rock City Kitties podcast episode about Record Store Day titles that we were excited about, you saw my little rant on this band and what I want for the future. I'll explain it. It's the Ramones' Loco Live. Loco Live is a live album that came out around 1991-92. This was put out by Sire in the US, so I think that's why Rhino has decided to put it out. But where's the other 90s reissues? We want that stuff. That's what I was talking about. Mondo Bizarro, Acid Eaters, Adios Amigos, hell, even reissue Greatest Hits Live and We're Outta Here. I don't think they've ever seen a vinyl pressing. Put that stuff out. Rhino, please listen to me. I'll give it a good review. Promise. Anyways, but this is pretty cool. Actually, I'll dissect it. I'm a little nerdy when it comes to this stuff. This is an interesting hybrid because there's some tracks that appear on the European version that don't appear on the US version, but yet they use the cover image from the UK version, but the typography here is from the US version. Don't ask me why I know this stuff. This is just super nerdy of me. But yeah, it's 90s live Ramones. It's what, 30 plus tracks played at double speed at this point. They really just kind of breeze through a greatest hits style set, and along with some extras in there as well. First LP is pressed on blue vinyl, and the second LP comes pressed on red vinyl. So very happy to beef up the Ramones collection with this sort of missing piece. I've been really wanting a copy of this, but originals and reissues go for stupid money. And last but not least, we have a 12-inch single from John and Yoko and the Plastic Ono Band, Power to the People, live at the one-to-one concert in New York City, 72. There's a documentary that just came out focusing on this sort of period of Lennon's career, and this kind of coincides with that. 4 tracks total. You have Well, 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 Instant Karma, Cold Turkey, and Don't Worry, Kyoko. So, nice 4-track EP, and it comes pressed on yellow wax. So overall, between what I just showcased here and the stuff I got from Rhino, very successful Record Store Day 2025. Okay, so aside from getting all the Record Store Day exclusives that I was after, I did stop by over at Wall to Wall Sound and Video. I've mentioned them plenty of times on my channel, where they had their own Record Store Dave, not Record Store Day. And they kind of followed suit with some other stores that don't really partake in Record Store Day tend to do, with just curating a prime selection of both new and used titles. They even had Jeffrey Gaines play an acoustic set there, and Polaroid Fade. I did a documentary on them a couple months back. They did a small set as well. So overall, it was a fantastic time, and went through their selection of Record Store Dave titles, and I picked up this cool piece. And I kind of came a little bit later in the day because I was like, I really hope that it's still there. And it is AC/DC's Highway to Hell. Now you're probably wondering, Dylan, why did you pick up a copy of Highway to Hell? Don't you already have a copy? Yes, I do. But here is what's cool about this pressing. And I've seen photos of this pop up from time to time as to what this pressing is. This is part of the sort of colored vinyl series that AC/DC has been doing to celebrate their 50th anniversary. They did all the gold vinyl Walmarts, and then they all came out in Europe overseas, but for Highway to Hell and Back in Black. They had Back in Black there. I should have bought that too, but maybe next time I go, I'll snag it up. Reason why I picked up this is that for those two albums, they decided to give those records not just the gold vinyl treatment, but a special other colored vinyl treatment. So this is pressed on what's called like solar flare kind of colored vinyl, which is basically just a mix of red and orange. It looks great, has that fiery, hellish look. And as you can see there, there's the 50th anniversary custom label. And basically, the printed inners that come with these reissues are pretty much the same as the 2003 reissues, which are fantastic. You have all these archival photos and liner notes, really well put together. And you also get a bonus insert as well. You have Angus on the front here with all the various lightning bolts, and it has the album title there, which is pretty cool. So I was very happy to snag a cool colored variant to upgrade my standard black copy of AC/DC's Highway to Hell. And then here is a sort of dodgy Kiss release that it's kind of in the gray market, sort of. I placed a pre-order for it back in like January. It was supposed to come out before then, and then I think the Amazon box showed up at my door on Record Store Day, actually. And I was like, okay, I suppose it has already come in. And this is, I'm actually going to take it out just because the sleeve that it's in is a little kind of filmy. But it is Kiss Rock Knights. This is an interesting little oddity. As you see, it has the German logo, has a cool 75, 76 era photo. There's Gene on the back there with his Axe prototype. And it features live versions of Got to Choose and Hotter Than Hell, which from what I've read comes from the Tulsa 1975 soundboard recording. So it's interesting that something like this exists that's like gray market but consists of complete bootleg style recordings. It's an interesting thing to have, and just the fact that it was available, I was like, you know what, might as well, you know, I'm a Kiss nut, so had to get it. And then here is a brand new release from a relatively newer band that I've mentioned many times on my channel. They were on Riding Easy Records. They released their first 3 albums on there, but since then they have signed to a label called Suicide Squeeze. And that is Blackwater Holy Light, and this EP is called If You Only Knew. I'm really stoked to dig into this. The best way that I can describe Blackwater Holy Light, all-female band from Portland, Oregon. I think they've relocated to Los Angeles. Imagine like doom metal and shoegaze kind of combined. It's very ethereal, it's very heavy. I think they're kind of going a little bit lighter and a bit more, dare I say, optimistic sounding a little with this EP from the singles that I've heard leading up to it. But it's cool to see these gals still productive and doing something. So I'm really stoked for this. And this pressing is actually limited to 900 copies. Got some photos of the gals there. We have all the lyrics. And this pressing is pressed on sort of white marbled colored vinyl with very like light blue labels. It kind of merges in with the vinyl almost if you look from a far distance. But I'm really stoked to give this a shot. All the postcards and goodies that are inside that came from the label are in the jacket, so I almost lost that just now. And now we have a bunch of various vinyl finds that I picked up kind of within the span of 2 days roughly. So my girlfriend and I, we actually stopped over at a shop. I think I've mentioned this store once before on the channel a little while ago, called Abbey Road, which is primarily a CD store, but they have some vinyl. And it's kind of one of those stores where like the vinyl is so mishmash, like you have just random used and new stuff all together. But if you want to dig and you have some hours to kill, you can find some gold, which is exactly the case here. Now, I'll showcase everything that I got, and then I'll explain what the catch was with what I purchased. So starting off, this is a big George Harrison gap filler. I need to beef up my George Harrison collection, but this album was kind of the must-own. And that is George Harrison Cloud 9. This was sort of the big sort of album that he had in the 80s. Got My Mind Set on You is on here. What's the other one? When We Was Fab is on here. This is honestly a really good album. I had never listened to it before until like about a month ago, and I was like, this is really good. I gotta snag this for myself. I had intentions on picking it up regardless, just because I'm a Beatles, fan, and I want to get the solo stuff. But this is good. And also, Jeff Lynne produced this, so there's a little bit of Traveling Wilburys action in there. And this is the 180-gram reissue. It does come with the printed inner sleeve of photos of such and such that played on here. Obviously, Ringo appears. Ray Cooper from Elton John's band is on here. Elton John appears. Eric Clapton. So, kind of a nice star-studded lineup there. And this comes pressed on heavyweight black vinyl with that Dark Horse label. I also picked up ZZ Top's Eliminator. It's very funny. I was spinning the Tejas album recently, the Rhino high fidelity press. And I was talking with my dad. I was like, I really need to get more ZZ Top stuff. I love the 70s stuff, but I was like, I need to get Eliminator just because it has the hits. Like, Give Me All Your Lovin', Legs, Sharp Dressed Man. You really can't go wrong. Now, this is an interesting Plaza Independencia Musica pressing this is from Argentina. I see a lot of these things pop up from time to time. And what's cool about it is that it is pressed on sort of metallic silver colored vinyl, which is pretty awesome. So I can say that I finally own this album now. And I also picked up, this is one that I've been just kind of needing for a while, and that's the Cranberries. Everybody else is doing it, so why can't we? Dreams is on here. Sunday, really good stuff. Gatefold. I think this is a later edition because they actually dedicate this to the memory of Dolores, so they probably redid this after she had passed away. So there was that. And then also I should mention the way that Abbey Road is spelled. Abby is spelled the same way as my girlfriend Abby. It's Abbie. So that was pretty cool, and she was with me, and perhaps that was a bit of a little good luck charm because the shop owner gave her this Ice Age picture disc for free. So it all worked out well. Now, what's the catch with all these albums? Keep in mind, like I said, Ice Age picture disc was free. All those records were 50% off. It was the same deal as when I went roughly a year ago. I hadn't been there in a year, and all the vinyl was half off. And granted, stuff was priced accordingly, roughly to retail, rather on the sweet side. But, and then I remember I had my selection. I did the math. I think it took off a few more bucks than what half off really is. So I made out well with that little shopping venture. So that was cool. And then the next day, I was in the area for a doctor's appointment, and I stopped over at a store called Tunes in Voorhees. And I had gone through the shop. Like, basically, if you look at the new arrivals, you don't have to go any further. That's not a criticism. That's just how it is, because it's the same pretty much every time I go. But I was looking in the soundtrack section, and it was one of those things where that was the last section that I looked in. I saw a record there, and I was like, yep, you're coming home with me. And that's that. What did I pick up? Keep in mind, I was a preteen when this movie came out. So this is it hits the nostalgia heartstrings a little. But that is the soundtrack to Twilight. Back when I was in middle school, everyone was obsessed with Twilight. Between the books, between the films, it's really good. And the soundtrack, honestly, is great. Muse, Supermassive Black Hole, Paramore's Decode, Linkin Park's Leave Out All the Rest. They got Bella's Lullaby. There's another Paramore track on here. Collective Soul is on here. Perry Farrell. It's really good. This will sit well alongside my soundtrack copy of New Moon. Now, this came out as part of that record store crawl event, and I think it sold out initially, and I was like, I can't find this anywhere. And then they must have done a repressing, and I was like, hell yeah, I am all for this. And this comes pressed on what's described as mercury colored vinyl, so it's kind of like a metallic hue with like bits of silver and blue. It looks really awesome, and to be quite honest, it fits the aesthetic. So good stuff there. And then, because I had a little bit of extra time, I stopped over at the Haddonfield Record Exchange. It's one of those cases where every time I go there, I leave with something great. And even if it's been there for like a couple months after I had last seen it, if it's still there, I'll get it. And of course, Still beefing up the Giz collection. Picked up King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Eyes Like the Sky. This is one of their early records. I think this might be their second full length, I want to say. And this is kind of interesting. They basically provide some instrumental accompaniment to a story that's told by Broderick Smith, who wrote and narrated the story. So it's a bit of an interesting second album. I would say it's probably not best representative of Gizzard's efforts. But you know what? It's kind of like a Pink Floyd thing, because, you know, you have Piper to Saucerful to Metal as like the main progression. But then you have like things like Ummagumma and Atom Heart Mother, the Moore soundtrack. So you have these interesting excursions. And that's the cool thing with Gizzard, is that they take lots of excursions. Comes in a nice printed inner sleeve, and it is pressed on orange vinyl, which looks really great. Now, here is one that I am very excited about. I actually did not know that this sold out on the website. I kind of just bought this on a whim. I pre-ordered it, and then when I found out that it was gone, I was like, oh, I'm glad I jumped on this. And that is Brian DiDodrio, Till the Morning. Brian is one half of the band, the Lemon Twigs. The Lemon Twigs is like, they're like a time capsule from the 60s and 70s brought into the 21st century. If you love the Beatles and the Beach Boys and exquisite production and harmonies and melodies, you will love those guys. And this is his first solo album, put out on Headstack Records, which is actually the Lemon Twigs' own record label. And I am really stoked for this. I love the artwork. It just has that great vintage 60s infrared kind of look to it. And just for the sake of showcasing everything, there is a nice little fold-out poster, and also a really cool photo of Brian right there. This kind of reminds me of like the photos from that last Beatles photo session from Tittenhurst Park, John Lennon's estate at the time. Kind of reminds me of that. You got some lyrics right here, and it does come pressed on black vinyl. Overall, really, really good stuff. There's the download card. Really good stuff.
Okay, so I may have alluded to this within the past month or so, but lately I have been having some gallbladder issues, and it all came to a head on the 25th of April, where I actually had it removed. Surgery went well. The recovery period has been smooth sailing. No complications. Everything has been solid. But on the day of my surgery, a new album came out by a particular band that I love very, very much. In fact, it's the band that I am sporting on my shirt. I am talking about Ghost, and this is their brand new album, Stellata. Ghost is a band that is still evolving to this day in terms of the lore and everything surrounding it. So on this album, there's a new frontman by the name of Papa 5 Perpetua. Obviously, it's still Tobias Forge. He's just wearing a half mask and some makeup underneath. And I am really stoked for this. It's crazy to think that they would churn out an album so quickly after having done the Impera album cycle, putting out the Right Here, Right Now concert film and the soundtrack for that last year, and he quickly churned this out. So I am really stoked for this. A couple of these singles that had come out were Satanized, Lacrima, and Peacefield. I haven't given this a full listen yet, but I am suspecting this is going to be a very sort of 80s arena rock sounding Ghost album, which is sort of the trend that they've been following for the past couple of albums. So they're still kind of honing in on that. But I'm really excited to check it out. Now, as you see, it has a sort of foil mirrorboard sort of cover to it. Sorry for the glare, you can kind of see it, but it looks really deluxe. And what's cool is that when I got my copy, it comes with this little Papa 5 overlay, so that when you line it up with the back cover, it kind of looks like he's like sitting on a throne of sorts. It kind of has like a Star Wars-y kind of look to it on the back by itself, but there's that overlay there, so I just kind of placed that inside. Comes with a printed inner sleeve. There's Papa with the new Nameless Ghouls there, looking pretty sick. Lyrics on this side. Now, I opted for the first splatter variant that became available on the Ghost web store when the Satanized single had debuted. So this comes pressed on clear vinyl with black and purple splatter, which looks really great. Now, typically when it comes to Ghost, they are a band that I do kind of go nuts over when it comes to some variants. So as of right now, this is the only one I have, but rest assured, I'll probably end up picking more. To be honest, if I really like the album enough to own multiple copies, I'll definitely snag up some more. But knowing me, I most likely will. So really stoked to give this album a listen, and yes, I will be reviewing it on trackingangle.com, so be sure to keep an eye out for that sometime in early May. And then while I was recovering, my girlfriend Abby stopped over and paid me a visit, and she actually gifted me a record that I kept saying I was going to get eventually. Funny enough, I said that word because that's one of the names of the songs on the record. This is an album that I kind of got into several years ago, but kind of honestly just kind of forgot to seek out for myself. I plan on getting it at one point. One of my former coworkers was playing it in the store, and I was like, yeah, I'm really digging this. And I just never got around to it. And this particular artist is one of Abby's favorites. And 9 times out of 10, if we're in a car together, this artist is playing or a song off of this album is playing. And every time like we go to Target, I'm always like, you know, one day I'm just going to pick this up. I'll pick up the album for myself. But needless to say, she did it for me. So she gifted me a copy of Tame Impala Currents. Best way to describe this is that it's kind of electronic, a little bit psychedelic. It's a great album to just kind of get lost and vibe out to. I absolutely love this record very much. Thanks to her for always playing it. And it's really, really good stuff. Has some great artwork, cool gatefold design, printed inners and such, which is really fantastic. So thank you very much, Abby, for crossing this album off my want list. So there you guys go. That is my vinyl haul of all the records that I acquired within the month of April this year in 2025. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the records spinning.